we continue with Suncica Pasuljevic Kandic. She's Associate Professor, Chair of New Media Art Department and Academy of Arts at Novi Sad. She's a poetic media explorer and anti-disciplinary practitioner working at the intersection of arts research, curatorial, and pedagogical practices. Her talk is named Planetary Game, Artists Critically Probing Power Dynamics with and Around AI Technologies. And this talk is not about games, but about game that powers them. Okay, Suncica, you can take the stage.
Okay. Just check. Okay. Well, no. Nada. Levo. Okay. Ótimo. I'm molim. Izvinja, I'm sorry. I think. Yeah, the conference that I attend, they're not this fancy, so sorry. I think I'm like a really odd duck in this situation because my talk is definitely not about the AI in games. It's actually about what AI is, made of, all the components. That's why it's called a planetary game, because AI, it's really not this like immaterial, phantom entity. It's actually quite based on quite a lot of intertwined networks, both political, social, and it's, what I mean by planetary game, it's because it's very much rooted in the Earth itself. So this whole talk is going to be about two aspects of this planetary game. It's basically the materiality of AI and the social implications of AI. So what I mean about materiality of AI, it's basically we go from deep inside the Earth back to its surface. What are all these like industrial hard powering dynamics that are incorporated in the devices that operate AI? And then we move to social implications of AI, basically data sets and the training of the data. And this is all from the view of artists. So not really like this technical talk, but in order to show what I mean, like the point of view from the artists, I would like to say that it's how I and many others distinguish what AI art is. So it's not what you see, these AI art generators that produce different images, which actually one of the first ones is made by the artist. It's actually something very similar to the Critical AI Art Manifesto. So a couple of these key words that they speak of is, through this they want to kind of show what is the role of the AI, how they see it. And when they say art using AI is also inevitably art about AI. Basically, what they want to say is that the role of artists working with AI needs to be activist and critical. So it pretty much needs to demystify the language that shows the working of AI. Which I think happened right now when you said this previous talk that you're using AI when you're actually not really using AI. This is something that tech industry does a lot. They also want to show that we need to subvert the models, the systems behind the AI operations, and also to be very critical towards the corporate tool. So basically, they urge to switch to open source tools. And also, this is a bit, AI art is different than generative art or generative AI art in terms that it does not really employ AI as a tool. And I will show you what I mean by that, because there are some of them who really employ the tool, but some of them are very analog. It's very hard to kind of try to explain the complexities of AI. I'm guessing that most of you are familiar already with it. But I really like the quote that Kate Crawford has. It's that AI is not neither artificial nor intelligent. And what she means by this is not intelligent is that by calling it intelligent, just because it's able to much faster process the data, label it, sort it out, means that you're actually diminishing the cognitive potentials of human beings, Also calling it artificial means that you exclude all the social, political, economical, and environmental structures that it's based upon. Because in order to make AI, it's based by humans, and it comes from the metals, ores, minerals that go into the hardware. Then you have the processing power, you have to have the cooling systems from the water to run the data centers. It's a very complex situation, so it's not really that artificial in itself. And many artists try to like work around this. So she and Vladan Joler actually do a lot of research together, and Kate does a lot of research with artists. Her research at the moment actually kind of shifted the dynamics completely in terms of ethical regulations of technology, especially of AI. Here you see the map, anatomy of AI system, which is this very nice way, actually, their research really shows this planetary game, the whole complex system. Here you can see the case study of Alexa device, and it basically traces the birth, life, and death of this device, and it shows if you take it from the left to the right, you see this. If you go from down to the up, you actually have this like map that traces down the whole geological processes, human labor process, up to the whole powering dynamics of social implications and the biases embedded in everyday technology, especially AI technology that we use on everyday basis. And this work is pretty much, for many, even though it has like these beautiful visuals, it's not really so able to kind of represent everything. So there are artists who are managing to illustrate this much in a more illustrative way, like Tabitha Rezari, who uses this 90s aesthetics. She also does a lot of video essays and installation arts, and she's, Black American. So she kind of, in her work, she really is, devoted to show how much current technology, excludes non-Western thinking and non-Western knowledge. So here she traces actually the old colonial roots of slave trading routes, and on top of these roots, you actually have the whole fiber optic cable network that is built. So through this, she kind of exposes what she calls now digital colonialism. She exposes all these like historical injustices and how current technology is actually pretty much based on the white male perspective. And we will see other works who actually also try to like defy this logic. Also working on this landscape of infrastructure. So we're still in the material aspect, and we're using internet as a case study. Trevor Paglen does photography work and does this like research documentations of the whole network, mostly US and Australia, but he tries to trace down the landscapes such as this one here that you can see, where you don't really see anything happening. The pictures are really beautiful, the sea looks interesting, but what he actually shows is the vastness of these landscapes, where you kind of think that there is nothing there, but underneath you have this complex network that spreads. So through this, he kind of tries to show the obscuring mechanism behind AI technology, also its impact on the aquatic life, and he's pretty much involved in the politics and surveillance, so he kind of exposed a lot of militant history behind technology as well. Another one that it's also still talking about this environmental footprint of the AI, which is, by the way, like enormously high, is the documentary work of Unknown Fields Division. Yeah, so here you see the screenshot from the documentary that they made, where they went to the sites that excavate rare earth metals. So these rare earth metals are like kind of this little tiny stuff that enables all the smart technology, basically anything that we have here today, and it's pretty much in any kind of device that operates AI. So they are exposing all the manufacturing processes behind this technology. Here you have a site where they're documenting how much is necessary and what kind of the process is to excavate 0.2% of rare earth metals. You need to excavate on the specific type of land 98% of the land, and in that process you pollute the whole landscape nearby, and especially like miles away there's like this very toxic environment. Also the people who work there have a lot of serious health conditions. So they kind of use this like documentary essay to showcase this. They also do objects as well. But so far, all these examples did not use AI in themselves at all. So what they try to do is to really demystify the AI as this a tool that's going to save us all, although it does not mean that it does not have this potential, but they want to go on a different level, you know, not to tell you the pretty story, but to open up this other story. Paulo Sirio does use most simplified ways of AI. Basically, like he coded an algorithm to kind of collect all the data and images from the species that are endangered by the big oil companies who pollute their environment and ecosystem. So here you have this like website that he put. You can go scroll through it, but you know, AI also did. What AI did is that it kind of calculated the financial compensation that you can claim if you go to the website that you can claim from these corporations on the behalf of this extinct species. And I think this is an interesting way how some artists try to think about the implications of AIs as a tool. You know, they kind of see it quite differently, and they try to use it and incorporate it in a different way. But moving from this like material aspect to more aspect of social implications, we come again to the Trevor Paglen's work. He also worked with Kate quite a lot in his project Excavating AI and Training Humans. And here you can see parts of his projects, which are pretty much, as you can see, like based on photography. But what he does, he explores and kind of like visualizes how machines are actually seeing. So he tries to like very much simplify it and show it, but this is like the visual aspect so that we all can understand how flawed actually the AI is. But underneath of that is quite a serious research. So this research actually kind of shifted the whole tech community, scientific community, and academic community because they exposed the flaws of the ImageNet data set. So they actually downloaded, they used an algorithm to process and download all the data coming from the ImageSet database, and they kind of went in their pretty much, you know, hands-on human and both non-human labor was involved. They went and tried to seek out all the flaws that the AI did. So basically, they exposed the racial bias, historically embedded bias, stereotypes, and prejudice. You know, I mean, the famous example of, you know, the algorithm, you know, presenting black person as a gorilla. You know, here you have like on a much much deeper level the issues. But the good thing is that the ImageNet actually kind of, you know, went public. They said that they're going to review their data set, and they did. They really tried. But I think that this work shows that no technology is neutral. You know, so it's really not possible to like fully exclude the biases because we as people are biased in a way. So I think this is a very good example where we open this up and show that, you know, AI is not this like the decision making in AI. It's not this all perfect. But there are a couple of games, even though these are artist games, you know, very much different dynamic of thinking about game and what games are. Both games here are actually simulation games. They both have more. Veromok has a bit of simpler algorithm, but Bob has a much more complex algorithm involved. Both are real-time simulation games based on the input of the people, you know, so you go on a website or you interact in a gallery with Bob, you give them data, they, you know, feed the algorithm, they give you a response. So it's an environment based on different inputs, constantly variable, and what Veromok does is that it's this simulation of future. So you have an algorithm called Influencer who, based on your input, kind of predicts the future of this world. So anytime you enter on a web page to this world, it's completely changed, it's very much different, and it kind of, you know, predicts the future based on what you give them as an input of what you see the future is. And I find this very interesting way how it simulates how, you know, decision model works in AI, even though it's like very abstract and it kind of like visually completely different than anything you've seen in games. But Ian Chang has a quite different way. For him, what he was interested in is to kind of break down or try to analyze, can the AI be more human-like? So he was mostly interested in the behavioral aspects of AI, both psychological and emotional. So what he did is something similar to the video games that use utility AI agent, not really the same approach, but he did not really try to, you know, model his wormish-like AI, because it's kind of like this worm, very abstract. He did not try to like model his behavior. He tried to model the environment to influence its behavior. So he would try to think like what kind of the inputs gathered from the environment you can use in order to like ignite certain kind of behavioral aspects. And I think this is an interesting way to think about the immersion in games or in just immersed environments, because at least if we talk about game industry, the more immersed in the game you are, you feel that it's more real. So I think these kind of different ways of thinking how you build a character or build the behavior, it's interesting, especially because both of these work really show the rigidness of the statistical models and the AI models based on a very close environmental data sets. Very different point of view, and I mentioned that in terms of AI art, it's very important to open different perspectives of thinking and working with the AI. And a definitely different perspective is not really just the feminist perspective or perspective of women, it's this more intersectional perspective, because all these artists here, most of them are also coders and engineers, so they do, create an algorithm, they do create more complex AI systems, they work with other researchers, people from other professions, and so it's a very much transdisciplinary discipline, it tries to encompass different perspectives. Here you have a Fixa bot, which is made by Feminist Internet Group, and it's a bot, it's like this playful, gamified educational game. Basically, you have a conversation with this bot, and it guides you throughout the world of bias in AI. But it's not just like showing you what is out there. It's trying to also like give you strategies how to mitigate the prejudice, but also like how to work in terms of gender inequalities. And also working with this type of point of view, actually, is the Caroline Sinder's feminist data set. And this work is really much analog. What she does, since she is a programmer, she traces the whole of the pipeline of AI process, really from the start to the end. She works this in group with people who are not familiar with this, and she tries to gather their data, their input, in order to create a completely different methodology for the AI, try to structure it in a different way. And she has with this other different projects that accompany this. So I think this is kind of like an interesting way that can show different, thinking models when we design AI systems, at least in the future. To finish up this aspect of social implications, I would like to just focus on these two amazing artists. Algorithmic Justice League is run by Joe Bolamini, who with this work actually, I think, completely shifted the regulations and in just regulating the AI, the implications of it, but also the ethical issues of AI. She created the term algorithmic bias and algorithmic gaze based upon this work. So she researched Microsoft, Face++, and IBM datasets. She downloaded them all, used an algorithm to run through the dataset, and then there was, again, a lot of human labor involved to map out where it actually makes mistakes. And her conclusion was it actually made a lot of mistakes on, the blacker the face, the invisible it gets. But it actually made a lot of misplacements when it comes to black females. So this work is quite interesting because from this work she entered a whole new activist, advocacy practice where she really works actively to work on the biases in AI, and not just like expose them. She actually provides solutions where how you can deal with this and manage this. And she then tries to also like make it more adaptable for everyone else who's not in the tech industry to understand it. Very much analog in that sense is Mimi Onuoha, Missing Datasets, and it's really much what it says it is. She actually, because she's not, in the tech world, she's not an engineer and not a programmer. Very much she's like in the arts. She created this, slots, very much archival kind of data sets. She incorporates this aesthetics, but then she goes and names every kind of data that it's excluded in the current data sets that most of the AI technology uses, that would actually help in a decision making process to make it more complex, because we as human beings are quite complex, and these kind of models do predict who's going to get a health care, who's going to go to jail, who's not, whose face is going to be scanned and then predicted to go to jail, as a completely wrong doings. I mean, these things happen, and these projects, these works actually kind of go and find cracks in the AI systems. They expose the power dynamics behind this, because these technologies, it's private. Just like most of the industry, it's like privately owned, and these people, they run this game. We kind of, everything here, it's a playground for them. So I think that, and when we think about all of this, some of the artists in the AI art are quite very critical towards themselves using AI. So some of them actually, advocate for artists not to use AI as tools at all because it's not sustainable. But I think that all this, it's not so like dark. I think this is actually like shedding light on where at the moment this technology is not working. It's not saying that it's all bad. It's just saying that where are its flaws and where we can actually kind of work with what we need to work in order to like make it more beneficial for all of us, but also for the planet. If we want to have this like planetary care mindset. And this, again, it's the work of Vladan Jora that kind of like showcased the power dynamic of all the knowledge that has been manufactured around AI. And I think that the game industry as an industry, because it's like very profitable and it has a large public outreach, it can actually, if it wants to implement kind of like real working AI models, and some of them actually do, like Forza Horizon does actually take the data from the cloud, from the Microsoft, to include it in their, driving skills for their NPCs models who are, drivers. So this is already like happening on like large scale. And I think if the game industry does have some sort of agency, if it wants to, in the future incorporate AI systems, it can, demand a bit some of the, more ethical or ecological development. But also I think that the game industry itself, it's quite diverse. So it's like can be very educational, it can be very creative. So it can also create games that, can dismantle this planetary game and, make it more understandable for people. So it's a lot of stuff. I'm definitely, I don't know if it's of any interest for you. It can be kind of like inspirational at all, but yeah. Thank you for listening. So if you have any questions, I'm here.
Yeah, we have time for some questions before we go to eat.
So I would say, just comment on the quote you shared with us. We from the technical world would say AI is neither artificial nor intelligent yet. So, and the question is, what do you work on? What are your interests?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I actually worked on a game that was like this participatory locative game throughout the Belgrade. So we use the architecture of the Belgrade, and you move through these different sites and you try to understand AI, the complexities of the infrastructure around you. So it was this like text-based simulation of the AI that you converse with, and it gives you, different literature or artworks that you can educate yourself, or, guide you through the possible futures based on your decision. So it was this way to kind of like give agency to the people, that we also can have agency for this. But my work in terms of like AI, it's mostly research-based. So right now I'm on a PhD where I try to work on all these issues, but actually create completely like non-technological approaches to it. Like create this like what I call infrastructures of engagement based on like all these different visual objects that can like ignite a topic to discuss, share, or create something where we can like dismantle the logic behind all of this. So it's a very technical, but like technical in in terms of theory, basically. I don't know if I managed to answer the question.
Any more questions? There's one.
So when we say like AI is not intelligence, we need to define intelligence. It's like a working definition for, I think it was DeepMind who put it, is ability of the agents to accomplish a goal in unknown environment. And they're definitely able to do this. So what is the definition to which we are
That's
evaluating?
a good question. But then again, that's what it did. It's in the closed environment, right? So the human can do that, but it's not able to do that on this, fast cannot process that amount of data so fast. But we can contextualize this data. And AI at the moment cannot really contextualize the data that it gives as an output. But yeah, if we talk about what intelligence is, yeah, definitely we can debate whether or not it's intelligence or not. Everything is about semantics at the end. How you put it, how you phrase it.
Yeah, but like, what's the difference between the closed environment and an open environment, except for the amount of processing power and memory that you need to process the data?
But also what environments you giving it to. If you give it like one environment and then you give it like previous, humans being how they analyze and learn or give output. They also give output based on previous experience. Even though it's like if I talk
like
about
AIs
mathematics, I will be thinking about my professor, the trauma that I have with mathematics. And somehow this will be embedded in any reading of mine in it. For the AI, if you don't give it that kind of data, it will not think about it. If you just give it data based coming from the, math circle, it's just gonna encompass that. And I think this is the situation. If you give it like all the data that's maybe not necessarily related to the goal that they have, maybe things will be different.
But like when you are training a network, it's training itself based on experience, so it does remember in a way.
Yes.
The previous experiences. Is just like how often do you refresh that network?
Yeah, that works fine. Maybe I'm not managing to explain it very well. So the way how I'm trying to visualize what you're saying now. So we have this like very linear structure. We have like maybe 3 types of data sets that the AI draws the data, to analyze it, collect it, and gives back the output, right?
But
the human being does the same.
The reason why we are doing this is because the processing is expensive, and hardware is slow and everything. But like this will change in time because it's growing exponentially. So it's just the current technical obstacle to feed the data, to feed the data all the time. But there's no conceptual reason why we cannot do that, and then how it's
I'm not saying about conceptual reasons. I'm opening up the environmental reasons as well. Like in order to have this amount of energy, this amount of machinery, you do need different materials to pull from the earth. And right now we are running from those materials because we are not doing recycle of all these metals, and we don't really have them that much. So in order to think about this, and I'm not saying this is impossible at all, like I would love to see this happening, but then let's be realistic. At this time, we are already running out of all the resources that we are putting into these devices to operate the software. So like this is what they mean by this, calling it not really so artificial or so intelligent. And don't talk about possibilities in the future. They're more concentrated on the now. And in order to get to that future, like, let's talk about what's happening now and like arrange stuff for that future, basically.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I want to say this is very important topic, and I just want quick question to hear. Do you have any feedback from big corporations on researchers like this one?
Trevor Pogland with Kate, they are actually in contact with most of the big corporations. Actually, Kate works with the AI Institute and works with Microsoft. Also, Joe Bolambini now has her own algorithmic justice league as the whole operation, but she came from MIT, so she is familiar with all this industry, and because she's doing advocacy work, she's pretty much constantly in the parliament, trying to work with different people and constantly in touch with the corporations. But it's honestly, I would not say, far that I know, my mindset knows, it's not really easy to get in touch with them, because at least for Trevor, they actually did not want to respond to their work, but when it became so public, they put out a paper saying that, oh, this is not really the case, we are trying, we are working things out, and they put some sort of new database, but they again run it out, and at the moment, Kate is now working on a new project trying actually to understand the machine vision and the labeling. They're really extensively doing this. And I don't know where it's going to go. I think they are already aware that they cannot create a perfect data set. At least this is what I got from her this summer. So I don't know where it's going to lead, but it's very hard to get in touch with companies. They're not willing.
Yeah, so pessimistic future.
Well, I don't, I would like to say no. At the moment, yes, but I would like to think that it might not. If we, if we really try to work with these issues, and these are like just very few issues, I think we can, have a different direction, but I think it's very necessary for everyone to understand this. And at the moment, this is like also a very close circle of people,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm willing to talk more if you like. I don't want to keep you up for the lunch. So yeah, you can come find me. I will be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.